doing Venus, and I think we were.
So today is March the 28th, 2022, and we are doing our first mentoring session for the 12 session package. And you were saying that I was listening to our last video. So I was talking about Mercury, and then I started talking about Venus. I did not have time to listen to the whole mentoring session. Do you have on your notes?
I have my notes, yeah. So we went quite a lot through Venus. So we did Venus Moon. If it's a square, if it's an indifferent, then we did Venus, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn.
Uranus?
We did Uranus, yeah. We did.
And what did I say about Venus, Uranus?
So you said the hard aspects are change of relationships. It doesn't last and does not sustain. Trine, sextile are interest in people with different nationality or color background, yeah, age, race, upbringing. There is a strong magnetism, and it might be a striking experience.
Okay, yeah. I also want to point out that Uranus, Venus, Uranus Sun, and Uranus Moon are indicative that there might be an openness for homosexuality or transsexuality, especially when it hits these personal planets. You find people who find it very easily to go with same sex. They find it easy to go with same sex, and sometimes it's almost like a compulsion to start early in life having homosexual experiences, because sometimes you find people who have an experience with the other sex for a while, and then all of a sudden they realize that they want something else. They want same-sex relationships. But with Uranus, it could be that it becomes clear, because of the freedom factor of Uranus, that they have no accountability to society. Okay, Uranus is the rule breaker, right? Is the one that has the, I would say Jupiter has the poetic license to transgress, to do something that it's like not so moral, even though Jupiter is very much connected to morals. But with Uranus, it's just like, well, I didn't have a commitment to be normal since the beginning, you know.
I'm just looking at the chart. The lady will come she couldn't make it last week, so she will come probably also after Chino is here. Very nice chart, actually, and I know that she is lesbian. So just a moment, I just close this. And she has Uranus, Venus square, and Uranus Sun trine.
Say it again. She has what? Trine Sun?
Uranus Sun trine, because you said Uranus Venus or Uranus Sun or Uranus Moon. So she has Uranus Venus and Uranus Sun. The moon is a bit farther. It's 10 degrees. It's not, but Venus and Sun are trine and sorry, I have to close this. Trine and square.
Okay, so you see what I'm saying? Uranus, whenever it's connected to Venus, Sun, or Moon, it's like, they don't. And if it's a trine, it's something that it doesn't really cause them much of a turmoil to come out of the closet.
So I talked to her. She's very clear about this. She has no any
Issues
hesitation to
connected
talk about
to,
it.
yeah.
He's very, very laid back about
Yeah, you know, it's funny because I see there is a couple that moved next door to where
Mhm,
I'm just
mhm,
a boy has moved in, but he has a boyfriend. And it's
mhm,
funny because he tries to hide a little bit, you know, like the
mhm,
exit the house in different timings. And so the other day I met
mhm.
the two of them and I said, "Oh, so what's your name?" And I was trying to make it like something
Mhm.
very acceptable,
Yeah.
you know. So it
Mhm.
was funny because sometimes people hide, you know.
Yeah,
Sometimes
yeah, yeah.
these boys or girls, they have to move away from their cities where they were born
Yes.
and grew
Yeah.
up, you know, not to be able to live that kind
To
of
live their
experience
life. Yeah.
without being judged
Mhm.
by people of a more traditional mindset.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is like super super important. And another, I mentioned that Venus in a square to the moon connect in a women's chart would bring some kind of unrestlessness about their femininity. Okay,
Mhm.
and because the two archetypes,
Check.
feminine archetypes, if they are in a square, in a quincunx, or in an opposition, it could be that they don't find themselves very attractive, even if they are, you know, even if they are.
Mhm.
So, in order for you not to emphasize their lack of self esteem, you have to see if that square is coming, for example, from Cancer to Libra. That might be a bigger issue towards,
Mhm.
because Libra and Cancer are very much susceptible. They're sensitive to what people say about them, right? The impressions
Mhm.
that people have about them. So let's say that you have that in your chart, Venus, moon in a square between Cancer and Libra. It will be someone who is going to be very much affected by the way she perceives herself within the context of the eyes of the others, of
Mhm.
society. They might say like, "Oh, my boobs are too big," or, you know, "My
Mhm.
hips are too wide," or "My hair is too curly," my teeth is crooked, or none of that is present, you know, but still they have a sense of inferiority. So just watch
Mhm.
for that. and,
Yeah.
and depending and depending which signs they are, you know, it could be between Aries and Capricorn. So it could be that at times they are really into the "I want it no matter what"
Mhm.
Aries, and then they go
Mhm.
like, "No, it's not no matter what, it's according to laws, you know,
Mhm.
it's according to some law." So if there is a square between Aries and Capricorn, there could be a tension between the perception of femininity coming from the willful desire from Aries and
Mhm.
the constrictions that the person will meet with a Capricorn in a square. For example, I'm just bringing the tension up.
Yeah. Mhm. Mhm. Mhm.
Uh, um, what else can I say? Oh, if you find that in a chart of a man, you will know that he will live that kind of archetype through the women with whom he connects. You know, it might
Okay.
be that he has a girlfriend who carries those problems and issues. Maybe
Mhm.
he's married to someone who is like that, or maybe he faces that kind of tension with a daughter, you know, with a sister, with
Mhm.
a pattern in a women lineage with whom he connects. Is that
Mhm.
clear to
Mhm.
you?
Mhm.
When
Yeah.
you
Yeah. Yeah.
find
Yeah.
that in a man's chart, those feminine archetypes are going to be projected out. He will meet that karmic vibrational field through the women with whom he
He has. He's in
he
relation.
relates to. Okay, so pay attention to that. It could be that, you know, a man who has Uranus moon, for example, has a mother who is not so settled, you know, she's restless, you know, she can be very active, but at the same time, because Uranus also always brings that element of restlessness, you know. We talk about Mars being the planet of speed, but listen, Uranus is about multiplying that speed by tens, hundreds. Okay, because it's about technology, it's about the speed of light, it's about thunderstorms, it's about lightnings. Uranus, I'm jumping.
Yeah. No.
Okay,
I know.
so anything that it's happening between Uranus and Venus, for example, will bring that kind of high expectation of relationship and values. It just takes values to the highest point, where people can be like really defensive of their values, you know, because Uranus does not comply with anyone's values other than his or hers. So Venus being the representative of values, and Uranus, when they come together in a dance in the zodiac, either by any aspects, you know, as we saw, if it's in an opposition, will clearly connect to relationship confrontations. Okay, value confrontations, because Venus is values in an opposition to Uranus. For example, it could be a confrontation because of the nature of the opposition of values that could be constantly triggering someone to do something about it, that it's more like an activist. You know, it could be an activist that is a feminist, or they are depending on which sign Venus is, she's dressing with a psychological wardrobe of that sign. Remember that, right?
Yes.
Okay, so when it's in opposition to Uranus, she's gonna go like, yeah, so, you know, something is not right with the value system, and I'm here to reform Uranus. I'm here to open a discussion, a high level discussion, Uranus, about values regarding, you know, this or that. And then you're going to look at the house where this Venus is. Okay, and you're going to look at other elements that might be connected to that Uranus or to that Venus as well. Because it's like, let's say you and I are having a conversation here, and then Chico comes in and you're completely taken by his presence, you know. So it's like you and I are having a meaningful conversation until Chino comes in, you know. So you have a planet speaking and talking and relating to another, and then another one is also present in the scene. It will be like, okay, so we are constantly going to be interrupted by this or that, you know. And then you have to learn how to protect yourself from how can I say, allowing such interference to become an issue and a problem. You know, you need to learn how to deal with that. Okay, just to mention something stupid, as I always do. You know, sometimes I make correlations. Like there is a moment here in Florianopolis when it starts raining a lot, which is during the winter time. Here is very wet. So I was thinking like, well, you know, last week I was thinking, so I need to get rain shoes if I'm going to stay, you know.
Yeah.
So I decided to think like, okay, so uh, I must buy the rain shoes, right? And so the other day it was raining, and that's in my mind. For some reason, that's in my mind, you know. And so the other day I decided to go uh, to the supermarket, and then I went to a supermarket that it's bigger and farther from where I live. So I decided it was it had rained the whole week last week. You will understand where I'm coming from. So and I know that I am undergoing, Pluto is on top of my Saturn, okay? And my Saturn originally in my natal chart is in a square to my Venus in the 10th house. It's there. It's in my natal chart, okay? And then Pluto is sitting on top of Saturn in a square to Venus. So the whole thing about who I value, who should stay in my life, how, because Venus is in the 10th house, and I'm bringing this because this is a Venus mentoring session. And so I decided to say like, oh, I'm not gonna take an Uber, I'm gonna walk. So I had this little cart where I had, this little thing that I put my grocery and I pull it like an old lady, I don't know if you know what I'm talking about.
I know exactly what you're doing.
It's so precious. It just works so well. So anyways, and I was walking. There was an option for me to walk on a larger place where it had more buildings, and on the other side of the road I was close to the mountain where there was a lot of vegetation. So I choose to walk through the vegetation, and then I'm going like there is a lot of grass growing, and then I was thinking like, I could meet a frog, I could meet and then I say I could meet, and then my whole body just saw a snake, a long snake coming from the bushes, and she just walked along me. I could not believe it, because first I thought about the frog, then I was like looking for another animal that could pop up. So Venus has that magical ability to sense things that are going to pop up in front of you. Even though people don't
so the snake was real.
Yes,
it was a real snake.
Yes.
Wow.
And yes, it was a real snake, and I could not just run away because there was a road right there, because I chose to walk by where it was more And so I watched the snake, and then I said, she already decided not to bite me, but I'm not going to take this for granted. And this is Venus. Venus doesn't like to take things for granted because she's the planet of protection. She likes to feel safe and protected. Remember that. Jupiter wants to be protected and wants to protect. Venus wants to protect. These are benefic planets. Okay? And the moon has a different level of protection. It's more like nurturing, creating the right environment for protection. But Venus is more like, I'm lucky. I'm lucky that I did not got bitten by that snake, and it took me, I would say, it was a two-way street. Just to make a long story short, I wasn't afraid. All of a sudden I go like, okay, my whole value system was going like, okay, so this is the Pluto in a square to Venus throwing a snake at you. So that, and then everything came to my mind, the rain boots. If I had the rain boots on, she would probably not bite me, So what I want to highlight here is that Venus will check your value system really fast. Okay, she will check if you did the right choice, if you did not do the right choice. Venus is the one that is going to say, well, was that choice benefic to me or not? You know, she has this very elegant way of, because I could just go like, just have a completely tantrum fit, because she was long. She wasn't fat. She was really skinny, but long. You know, and then all of a sudden I said, you know, my value system said, there is no one around me, so why should I scream? You know, Venus, calculating, no. So, and then I said, if I cross it without watching, I'm gonna get hit by a car. So everything was taken to a value system. What do I value more? Is she gonna bite me? And so when you are dealing with planets in relation to Venus, pay attention to the calculations that the person is doing regarding her own protection. Because it might be a snake, it might be an aggressor, it might be someone who is entering your life with a different set of values that will challenge the existing ones that you already have in your mindset. And when Uranus comes, it's always something that it's connected to. I am not going to say reckless, but it could be reckless too. It could be reckless, especially if it's an opposition or a square. Please write that down. You know, if you have
Uranus, Venus could be reckless.
If Uranus is in a square to Venus or in an opposition, I want to show you something. Hold on, let me pause.
Formulating relationship. Yeah.
She's a real what?
She's reformulating, reliving, redoing relationship. No.
Oh, I see.
With Pluto on the north, no, with Pluto in Libra is somebody who knows relationship, who has done relationship.
Or who is here to transform through relationships.
Exactly.
So I wanted to bring up Vladimir Putin's chart.
Oh,
he's a Scorpio, right? He's a Libra. With a you know, Saturn, Mercury, Neptune in Libra in the 12th house. You know, Saturn, Mercury together make him become like that cold person who really doesn't care about anyone, because that's one of the expressions of Saturn and Mercury, is not to get involved with whatever with other people's values. Libra, you know, he has the sun in the 11th house, which a lot of world leaders have. You know, and the 11th house is about ruling a community, and he has Pluto conjunct the midheaven. Okay,
that is the power he is.
Yeah. So the 12th house is always about, you know, he has Neptune in conjunction with the Saturn, Mercury, and Neptune is in conjunction to Mercury, which means that his mind is like, well, who cares if I lie? Who cares if I put 180 troops on the border of Ukraine and I keep telling them that I'm not going to invade, and then I invade? You know, that's Neptune, Mercury. That's Neptune, Mercury, Saturn all together in the 12th house, because he's definitely not working with any spirituality. But the fact that he has Uranus in Cancer in the 9th house, in a square to Mercury, in a square to Saturn, this is a very hard aspect. You know, Uranus in square to Saturn, we're having that in the sky right now.
At the moment,
okay?
Yes.
So there is a replica, there is a repetition of what's happening in the sky in his chart, but it's happening in different signs, but that kind of tension is present. But look at this, he has Uranus at 18 degrees of Cancer, and his sun is at 13 degrees. So it's just 5 degrees of 13 degrees of Libra. So they're just 5 degrees apart, you know. So he's one of those who have Uranus in a square to the sun. Like I said, you know, you don't see this guy relating to anyone. Do you?
No.
Do you see a wife, a girlfriend, a daughter, or something? They're completely non-existent in his life. So another aspect of
his
Uranus,
official life. You know, I was in with shamans in Russia, and they said that he's coming regularly. He's using spirituality for his power.
probably, but he was very stupid not to see that, you know, the undergoing transit right now, Uranus is making an opposition to Venus, and that's why I brought, you know, about his chart, because what does it mean? It means that, you know, the seventh house is representative of his allies, right? His allies.
Yeah.
You know, people that buy oil from him, that whatever, you know. And then all of a sudden Uranus comes, and in the seventh house, he has been going through this transit of Uranus in the seventh house in Taurus for quite a while, you know. So he's been like building up tension with Donald Trump and stuff. But then when Uranus makes an opposition to Venus, because look, Venus is at 11 degrees in his chart, natal chart, Venus is at 11 degrees. Okay, the transit for Uranus is at 12. So when he launched the attack on February 24, Uranus was right in opposition to his Venus, which rules his seventh house. So the whole international community, which are his allies, seventh house, start boycotting him. So what kind of spiritual leaders is he following?
No. He's not a spiritual leader. But he misuses, better said, spirituality for his power gains.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. You know, he should have seen this coming, because Uranus rules his fourth house, okay, and it's in the seventh house. And so he puts his land, his motherland, fourth house, in an opposition to all his allies, you know, and this tension is like, it triggers, that's what I want to say. Whatever strikes Venus, it strikes your value systems. So what happens? You know, they boycott him. They take all the riches from the oligarchs. They do embargo. I don't know how you call that. To the oil industry. You know, the fourth house is also connected to anything you extract from the land, the richness from the land. And once it's in an opposition to Venus, you know, the ruble, their exchange money, has dropped radically. So whenever you were going, and he did not expect that Ukraine would be so fiercely defending itself, right? So the unexpected aspect of Uranus in an opposition to Venus makes the person become very cold-blooded as well, you know, like Uranus has that cold mind that does not get involved with anything, right? But he's a very popular leader. That's what I wanted to show you too. Whoever has Venus in the first house has power, you know, of seduction. Whatever he does, he seduces a huge number of people, because he has a huge support from the Russians, from the military, you know, and he has
of course, this is a power thing, I think. But where in his chart would you, he must have an incredible fear or feeling of inferiority, or fear of being overthrown by somebody next to him. He is protecting his power and his position so bad, so from many years, that this can only mean that he is afraid that somebody comes and takes his power away. And
Well,
in a way, I think this is, there are elements of, I want to take this land because this is ours, because our people live there. And on the other hand is also like this leader in Ukraine, and I am not entirely positive about him, but this leader could like be a danger for him taking his position or picking something from his position. He must have this fear somewhere. Could this be I don't
Pluto
know, Venus
in
Scorpio?
Pluto in a square to Jupiter. You know, Jupiter is the almighty god of the Olympus, right?
Okay.
And Pluto has the, you know, he's hungry for power because Pluto is conjunct the midheaven. Okay.
Midheaven, yeah.
And then when Jupiter comes in a square to Jupiter, when Pluto comes in a square to Jupiter from the midheaven position, his arrogance, you know, this is a typical arrogant blueprint.
Yeah.
You know, Jupiter expands and Pluto wants to enhance its powers. So when they are in a square coming from the 7th house to the 10th house, you know, he only respects his own you know, values and thirst and hunger for power, because Pluto is sitting right on his midheaven. So this is one, and another one is Uranus in a square to the Sun, Uranus in a square to Saturn. You know, we are watching a lot of atrocities happen in the world during this Saturn-Uranus square that has been going on and will keep on going on until Christmas Eve. We have another very close square between Uranus and Saturn. So he is the man in highlight at this moment all over the world, because he has Pluto together in the, you know, he's gonna claim that power for himself no matter what. Okay. But he doesn't do that through good turns, because he does that through arrogance. Pluto in a square to Jupiter in Taurus, you know, Jupiter in Taurus, like, that's my territory, Crimea, you know, the east of Ukraine, you know, it's mine too, you know, I acknowledge, you know, so now he wants Mariupol, you know, he wants land, Taurus, okay, and he wants power, he wants to keep himself in power. That's why the whole world is saying, like, how is this guy going to fall? I tell you how. When Pluto squares his ascendant, you know, which is coming in 2024, you know, he's going to be out, because Pluto rules his ascendant. He's a Scorpio rising, and Pluto, who rules his ascendant, will make a square to his ascendant line. Then he's out of the game, but only then. So I don't think he's going to be out of the game. And I think this aspect here is extremely dangerous. And I tell you why. Because as soon as Uranus comes to forming a real square to Pluto, which rules his ascendant, which Uranus rules his 4th house, he's going to be like really reckless, you know, like I don't care. He might even throw a little atomic bomb, if not one, many. You know, because this is like super like I don't care, you know, if I'm going down, you're going down with me. He's already telling his oligarchs, if I'm going down, you're going down with me. Okay, but the whole thing about bringing his chart was to show you how Uranus in opposition to Venus, which is the planet that we are you know, studying
talking about
recently, can be like, it just, he breaks loose with all values, all, you know,
anything that
reasonable.
could,
With how reasonable,
yes,
because Uranus is not reasonable. He can be a genius, you know, but it's
I think
definitely.
he is actually, but he clearly he's much over the top, and there is no way of return for him. I mean, Uranus is coming up to Jupiter as well. This might be around the same time as Pluto will square his ascendant.
You see, you see what I'm talking about? How dangerous this might be. And not to mention that his south node is traveling his first house. And there will be a moment when the south node will meet his Venus. So he's definitely on a downfall here. And then,
there is no doubt. Nobody doubts that he is on a downturn. The question is, who will he take with him, and how long will it take? Because there is a good chance that he will be eliminated within his own circle.
Yeah, I've been reading about that too, you know, that they might just replace him with a likewise figure, you know, an authoritarian, or at least someone who will, you know, it's hard to see another, what was his name? The guy who opened, I forgot his name. Gorbachev. Yeah, he was a Pisces.
You know, but Sandra, we don't know who is there, and if they do something internally, then they do it in order to rescue the commercial impact as much as they can. So, however, I mean, this is my take. However, authoritarian a follower, a successor might be, he will not use the same authority on other people's land, because they will do it only to rescue their economic situation.
I guess so. Yeah, I was listening to a news this morning that said that the Ukrainians are capturing all the tanks, you know, and they are not finding food for the young men who went there to fight. They were told that they were going to go there for exercise, you know.
I know.
And this is a typical situation where you have Neptune transiting his fourth house. He's lying to his own people.
Yes.
You know,
I mean, and the Ukrainians have help from all the world, but the Russians have no help. And so many people in Russia are so badly affected without agreeing what he is doing.
Yeah, we know that. But the thing about him is that he's still in a good position because the North Node is traveling through his seventh house. So he still has China as his ally, you know, the Turkish is like in between. He has Syria on his side. He has Iran on his side. He has Belarus on his side. So he still has the North Node is in his 7th house, so he is still dealing with some Belarus president being a pro-Russian is helping him bring his forces in. So that's the North Node traveling his 7th house. Nonetheless, within a year or so I don't see this conflict ending so soon, because the North Node is attacking his 1st house, his sense of self. And when it gets on top of his Venus, he's going to feel depleted. I mean, this is just the beginning of the depletion. Then I come back to that reasoning that I was bringing to you when I said there could be frogs, there could be, and then the snake comes, So it is as if you have a little sense of anticipation with Venus, because your value system is sorting out for everything that could be a possibility within the event horizon.
Could be a danger, no? And being the Venus in Scorpio, he always has a good sensing of what is good and what is dangerous, no? To himself.
He is the danger himself. Look at this Uranus in a square to Saturn. Uranus in a square to the Sun. Whenever you have Uranus in a square to the Sun, conjunct the Sun, in opposition to the Sun, it's someone who has a hint of genius, but also has a hint of the trickster. If they are going to use it one way or another, it will depend on their value system. Because they might value, undergoing scientific research, but they might just, value being the reckless, how can I say, disturbing factor, instead of creating something new, bringing something new to the fore, like I was doing a little research, how the big transformers of society, such as, am I recording this? Yeah. Like Sigmund Freud, like Johann Kepler, they all have a bit of Uranus. Let me...
Sure. They all have this drive to break through some barriers and create havoc through this. The creation with Uranus and Sun is it might take some things down for some other things to emerge. Because what we are seeing with Ukraine now, of course, there is a big tragedy going on, but at the same time, this will change so many things. And I think it will change for the better. The way people look at stability.
It's going to get much worse before it gets better,
Exactly.
With this guy, with the South Node, with the South Node in the 1st house, it gets bad to your personality if you are someone who is already in the bad, in the negative spotlight. Okay, it amplifies how bad you are,
how bad you can get.
And do not forget that within the context of complexity, this guy has Pluto conjunct his midheaven.
Yeah.
And then now we're looking at Freud's chart. Just a quick look here. He also has Uranus Sun conjunction in Taurus in the 7th house. Everything is in 4 planets in the 4th house. In Taurus. I don't know why I said 4th house. But anyways, he's also a Scorpio rising, like Putin.
Yeah.
you know. But he has, Freud, when he discovered the unconscious mind, he brought a whole revolutionary aspect to how you relate to people. And that's Uranus sun in his seventh house. It's when you find yourself in a position of transforming societal values.
Society,
Because he has Mars retrograde in the 11th house. So he brings a whole revolution to the way people think and relate to each other.
Yeah.
And he also has the moon in Gemini and Saturn in the 8th house. The 8th house is the house of crisis, So he develops this methodology of going deep into the mind, Gemini, through the crisis aspect of the 8th house, through the spoken word. So he invented psychoanalysis. He's the father of psychoanalysis, because the 8th house is the house that allows you to go deep into the other person's or into yourself first. He has a text called the Botanic Monography. Please write that down. It's free online, the Botanic Monography. It was a study that he did on his own dream interpretation about a botanic monography that he was supposed to write. So, it's such a web of connection that he does with the images that have come out of their dreamlike state. So I want to highlight that someone who has a strong dreamlike state, they have to have a strong 8th house and they have to have a strong 12th house. Okay, please write that down. If you find someone with a strong planetary positions in the 12th house, which is the case for Vladimir Putin, as you saw, he has Neptune, Saturn, and Mercury in the 12th house. So in his dreamlike state, he feels persecuted, because of that Saturn, Mercury. There is a void.
This is what I'm talking about. He has a deep fear of persecution, of being taken down, of a threat, constant threat to his position that is very deep in him. I am 100% sure.
Yeah, no doubt about it, because the 12th house is the house where you see, you have the image that someone is coming after you.
Yeah.
For no known reason. Okay, so I learned that he's very good at history. He's always mentioning history. But listen, history is not a spirituality. And if I come to you for like a shamanic session without, if I were not a psychologist or an astrologer, but I come to you for a session, of course, I'm going to have an interface with you that you are going to channel your spirituality with me as a client. But that doesn't mean that I'm doing spiritual work myself. I'm just inviting in some. So what I was saying when you mentioned, I didn't know that, but thank God you mentioned that, because it enhances my understanding of the 12th house, that he's looking for for spiritual powers to help him with his,
protect him, to help him protect him.
Yeah, well, he is very much into that, because the KGB is the 12th house, right? Is the Scorpio, are the spies, Freud as well has a very strong investigative mind, right? The investigation, I want to know what it's behind your thought process,
And he has also Pluto Venus.
He has
conjunction, I guess.
Yes. And he also has, he did a lot of work at he built a methodology, 6th house, right? the psychoanalysis methodology. So that's Pluto, Venus in Aries, a new methodology. Pluto is way placed in, you see, Venus is at 26 degrees of Aries, and his Pluto is at 4 degrees. So they're 8 degrees apart. It is a conjunction, but it's a large conjunction. It's a conjunction that I would emphasize, listen, this is more important than anything. Looking at Venus, it's in this case, because they are both in the same house, I would give more emphasis to the house placement than to the conjunction in different signs 8 degrees apart. Does that make sense to you, that I am more privileged to the fact that they are both in the same house, acting in the same area? Like, let's say that you and I are both dealing with astrology, but you have the shamanic approach, I have the psychological approach. We are both in the same field, but taking different different approaches, because every time a planet is in a sign, they are dressing up within their that specific psychological blueprint. Okay, but being in the same house, the same house is the same stage where both are going to have to play. Nonetheless, they have different roles and they have different wardrobes. They have different wardrobes because they're sitting in totally different signs.
Yeah.
Okay, does that make sense to you?
Yes, makes sense. Yeah.
Okay. So I will stop sharing. No, hold on a second. I want to pull out. Johann Kepler, yes, please.
I would have sworn that Johannes Kepler is Austrian, because there is a Johannes Kepler University in Linz, where I lived for quite some time.
He's German, you see.
He's German, yeah.
Yeah. So he has Uranus, Mercury, Sun, and Venus. Yeah, conjunct. Yeah, all in Capricorn. You see how powerful and enduring and what a legacy this guy left behind?
Yeah.
Okay, because first of all, the fact that he has Sun and Venus in the 8th house together, a few degrees apart in Capricorn, it brings a completely different outlook. It transforms deeply the values of his times. Whenever you have Venus Sun conjunction, the identity is pretty much connected to the value system that the person is advocating for.
Also, he became an authority in his domain. Absolutely.
Definitely.
He's preferred worldwide, no?
Yeah, but look, he has Jupiter. He was born with a Jupiter-Pluto conjunction in the 10th house. Another case of someone very powerful, because Pluto is in the 10th house. I mean, there's no way someone having Pluto sitting in the 10th house will play small. They will have that necessity, and whatever he brought to the fore was something that, Aquarius in his midheaven, it was really a revolution in his thinking process, in everyone's thinking process, because there was this revolutionary aspect about his ideas. Aquarius ruling his 10th house, and he is a man of ideas. He has the moon in the 12th house, and Neptune as well. You know, they're both huge 12th house. You see? And then that's what I want to say. Whenever you have a lot of planets in Capricorn, you end up wanting to leave a legacy behind, you know, something that will endure the test of time. He also has the North Node in Leo in the 3rd house. You know, his ideas were pretty much confronted. You know, South Node is in the 9th house. So this also brings like the turmoil aspect of your ideas, like prove it. How is it that you dare to say that? You know, there is an element of Uranus, Sun, conjunct in Capricorn, which brings about another aspect of Uranus with all the personal planets. You know, it's conjuncting Mercury, the Sun, and Venus. So of course, someone with this aspect, with this stellium, is someone who comes and plus Pluto in the 10th house with Jupiter, which enhances his acknowledgement throughout time after his death. You know, Venus Sun in Capricorn in the 8th house, he will be spoken about long after he's dead. 8th house, death. So he becomes very famous, even more famous probably after he's dead, because having Capricorn in the 8th house is someone who is able to leave a legacy behind as as an equation of his death. Okay. So I think we have seen a lot about interesting charts today. Yeah. And then okay, so we explored a lot of Uranus with Venus today, Venus with the Sun, Venus with Jupiter.
We didn't
now I want to
Neptune
say,
and we didn't do Pluto.
Yeah, well, let's look at Venus and Saturn. You know, Venus and Saturn is a pretty good challenge for it's a huge challenge for relationships, especially when you find it in a Venus in the square to Saturn is not a denial of love.
We have done Venus Saturn.
Venus Saturn,
and
yeah.
I will read to you, if it's okay, what I noted down. So it might be hardship to love, waiting a long time to meet the love of your life. If it's a sextile or a trine, is you are going for a long-lasting, long-term relationship. You value people you can trust, becomes emotionally mature, and relationship is highly valued. Square and opposition is a problem in long-term relationship. The Saturn is delaying or denying. A quincunx is emotional pain from relationships, doesn't feel appreciated, have to go on their own.
That's from our last session, right? So we did cover Saturn, and we did cover a lot of.
We covered Saturn, I think, quite well. But we didn't Neptune and Pluto.
Okay, so Venus with Neptune will bring that enchantment factor. That's the first thing that comes to mind. On a positive note, it brings an enchantment factor. This enchantment factor can be, you know, when you open a portal for creativity, for imagination, for beautiful songs, for beautiful And I'm talking about good aspects. It can be songwriting, it can be someone who is an altruistic person, a patron of the arts. Venus Neptune can be someone who invests money, Venus, in the arts, Neptune. Venus is exalted in Pisces. She's like at her highest expression in Pisces. She's really, having out the grace and the enchantment factor of Pisces. So when she relates to its ruler, Neptune, sorry, it's also telling us that she will constantly look for the magic. That magic can be through creativity, or it can be through illusion and therefore disillusion. Because if you insist in living in La La Land, other than in your real life, other than in your artistic endeavors, because if you're using Venus Neptune towards artistic endeavors, then you're going like, okay, so I am channeling this Neptune Venus in a way that it's creative, it's producing value for me and for others. But for example, if you have Neptune in a square to Venus, it's definitely someone who is going to spend a lot of time in La La Land. They might be great professionals, but in their emotional life, they are a mess. Because Neptune Venus doesn't mean in a square or in an opposition. It doesn't mean that the person will be creative and
productive.
And will Neptune Venus is never really proactive. It's just like goes with the flow. So it's a perfect element for someone who is going to sit in front of a canvas and just channel whatever, a painter, a singer, someone who is going to sit down at 2 o'clock in the morning and write a song and be inspired. Oh, that's a good word. Venus, Neptune in good aspects, Venus in trine, Venus in sextiles, and sometimes Venus in a conjunction to Neptune can be a source of great imagination and inspiration. They are inspired by higher sources of from the vibrational field. It can be someone that sings in light codes. I just found a girl on Instagram that she sings in light codes, and it's just so amazing. It's just so amazing. And I go like, okay, so and she started following me, so I'm going to reach out to her and ask her for her chart, because she's singing she's from German, and she's singing in Arturian codes, and it's so beautiful.
Wow.
It's so beautiful. I'm gonna share some of her posts with you. That's a typical Neptune Venus kind of expression, because through her eyes that she's connected to another source. But then when it comes to the real world, how do you, and living in a metropolis or in a society where you are pushed and requested to perform in a very critical and practical way, that's not so easy for someone who has Venus Neptune. So you must be very much aware of the storytelling you are going to build around a Venus Neptune chart interpretation. Because you're going to have to bring that to the fore. You see, like that. Okay, let's bring Neptune, Saturn, Mercury in Putin's chart back. The fact that he has Neptune, Mercury brings him to that la la land. It seems like he's completely disconnected from whatever is happening outside. You know, he lives in his own imagination that, you know, that Ukraine is going to, you know, join NATO, and he feels under attack. That's the 12th house. And you know, Venus Neptune can be that kind of disconnection from reality, that if it's not being used properly in a creative way, taking into consideration that the person does not have a Pluto in the 10th house, does not want power, it might be that they are not talking about Putin anymore. Now I'm talking in general. If you look at someone with a Venus Neptune aspect, they have their own value system of their own, because Neptune is a transcendental planet, you know, so it's connected to you know, that level of unknown source that comes. Neptune
is connecting to the source, is connecting to the outer world right up there.
Think about the ocean, you know, Poseidon, Neptune, Poseidon, you know, it can be that flat water, the ocean, like really flat, but every 4 hours, Neptune works with the moon, you know, and the tides, they move, you know, you have 4 tides every day.
In Brazil, you have 4 tides.
Whenever you are, you have the high tides and the low tides, because the tilting of the earth around its own axis within 24 hours, it creates a magnetic pull with a movement of of the moon, that it just brings the high tides and the low tides, and it happens 4 times a day. Every 6 hours there is a, you know, a waning and waxing, whatever you call that. From you just look for the table of the ocean. I don't know how you call that.
Tides, I know I used to look at them in Greece, but I remember that they were 2 high tides and 2 low tides. Yes, every 6 hours it changes.
Okay, so what happens is that Neptune has that kind of like, I'm being creative now, I'm channeling, and then all of a sudden it could be that without, and this is the storytelling, without the value of spirituality, without the process of developing spirituality with this combination of Venus and Neptune, eventually you will fall into the trap of becoming this moody person, you know, like go up, creativity and expansion, and then as the tide goes down, you are depressed. Of course, it's going to depend on which sign it is, but let's say, okay, the generation that were born in the 90s, 1990s, they 1990, 92, 93, they had Neptune in Capricorn. Let's say that someone has Venus and Neptune conjunct in Capricorn. Okay, so that means that, you know, they are not the lunatics. They are not. But they are probably going to bring about values that will make them look like lunatics, even though they are not. Remember Kepler's chart?
But isn't this kind of, they dream a world into being? Because they manifest their dreams, Capricorn, no? They try at least as hard as possible to really bring it down on earth, manifest, and still dream.
Yeah, like Venus Neptune in conjunction in Capricorn, which would be much more grounded than Venus and Neptune, for example, in conjunction in Aquarius, because Aquarius, because it's an air sign, it can be highly creative in the mind. It can bring community transformation and stuff like that. So you must always adjust the channeling of creativity or the illusion, disillusion, you know, within the context of the psychological blueprint of the sign where they're sitting or they are relating in a square, in an opposition, in a conjunction. I really like the sextile. I really like the sextile between Venus and Neptune because they become sweethearts. You know, they work in tandem with each other. You know, if it's in an earth sign, they're going to be you know, these people that service you for some reason, they are doing some kind of you know, service to you, and they are just so kind that you go like, oh my God, they're so kind. So there is a maid that works here where I'm staying right now. You know, she's available to take care of the apartments. She's always smiling. She's, you know, whenever I'm saying like, I'm gonna ask her, like, there was a table here that I didn't like, and then I asked her to help me to take the table off. She just came with this big smile on a Friday afternoon. You know, I go like, this girl probably has like either Venus, Jupiter. She cares about the other. She wants to be helpful. So Neptune with Venus in good aspects, they want to be helpful. They enjoy being helpful because Venus is also about pleasure and Neptune is about serving the others. And so whenever you feel that someone is doing whatever work they're doing, they're swiping the streets, they are garbage man, but they're still smiling, it's probably something like this, you know. How humbling can it be someone who decides to apply for a job to work on the garbage collecting in a city? You know, I definitely, it's a funny thing because when I look at those people, I'm always very thankful. And I think that the humbleness of Venus Neptune, which is a value for Venus when she's connected to Neptune, to be humble. You know, because Neptune brings that humbleness. You know, this is one of the aspects of Neptune. It's to be humble, right? And when Venus, let me see how our time is. Okay, we still have 20 minutes, right?
Yeah.
Are you okay with another 20 minutes, right?
Yeah, I'm okay. I have to start at 5. They will send me messages before, but I leave them sending. Because I am organizing for a charity car boot sale. And it's supposed to happen on Saturday if it doesn't rain heavy. And at the moment, it looks like it will rain heavily. So
well, it's interesting that you bring charity when we are talking about Neptune,
about Venus. Yeah. Yeah. So and on one hand, I like it very much. And on the other, I was asking myself whether I'm outright nuts to engage in something like this. I never did this before. And I am in the middle of this Gino thing. And anyway, but then, you know, I got help, and I think it's going to turn out very nice.
Yeah, well, you had a whole year of your North Node in your 10th house, right? So
yeah,
you prepared yourself for that. You know, you kind of disconnected a little bit from the 4th house and gave more attention to the 10th, and now and now to the 9th house. What is it? What kind of impact you are creating for people? You know,
because I see the time is right the moment when 26 years ago my son was born. He was the firstborn, and this was an adventure. My goodness. Yeah, very
We
nice.
can look at that. We can look at that. Remind me, make a note that we can look at that. As soon as we finish this,
Yeah.
we can go back and look at all those, use progressions that we will have time to look at that with these other 12 sessions,
Yeah.
how you see things happening in your life. Just make sure you write the dates because it will show on your progress chart.
Okay.
Each event
Yes.
will be present in your progress chart, and even solar returns if you remember where you were at the time.
Yeah. Well, I will be in Cusco this time.
Maybe
Maybe even at Mount Ausangate, which is an incredible entity. It's a huge deity, I would say, masculine mountain. And anyway, I will be in Peru. I didn't look it up. I didn't. 15th of June.
Oh, 15 of, hold on a second, my dear. I just realized that I am disconnected. Hold on a second. Back in. Just think about when I was talking about Neptune, Poseidon. Sometimes you have the flat ocean and sometimes you have a strong, wavy, turbulent ocean. So Neptune is not always the cutie pie. So that's what I'm saying. Whenever you have Neptune in a square to Venus, or Neptune in a quincunx with Venus, and Neptune and sometimes even Neptune conjunct Venus to a lesser extent in a conjunction, it could be that the person is so devastated by their love lives that they can feel completely depleted of any power to bring back their sanity, because they are so involved with the dreamlike state in relationships. Or it can be that they become like James Joplin or Amy Winehouse. I don't know if they have Neptune conjunct Venus. We can look. But what I'm saying is that sometimes their creativity is merged with some kind of drug abuse. That because they become too creative, they can't even create a vessel for that expression to be spiritual and serene. So they take drugs in order to bring down the level of vibrational creativity that goes through their system. Because sometimes
they both actually, but more Amy Winehouse strikes me also like Venus Pluto.
Yeah,
she's very, very.
I told you I was trouble.
Yeah.
Right? That song.
Yeah.
I told you I was trouble. I love that one. Yeah. Well, yes, but we can look at their charts, but still, that element of not being able to even hold that high vibrational level, it can give you goosebumps just to think about how the creative process happens. Like last night I was looking at all my screenshots from podcasts that I watched through these last 2 years. I created a file on my laptop with all the screenshots, and then I said, I need to organize this, because it's so rich. And so, and then it was like 3:30 in the morning. Reason why I woke up this morning a bit later than I usually do, because it was 3:45 in the morning. I was still looking at all of them and editing and thinking about where am I going to you know, use this. I need to create a booklet for my students, you know. So the whole creative process was just like, it took my sleep away. Therefore, it messed up with my morning, not energetically, but I got a little lost with the time, you know, and for some reason, in a last minute, my Mercury in Aquarius said, well, the North, you know, everyone in the North is changing time zones. So maybe Monica too, let me check.
But I didn't think, and yes, I remember when we started, and I was wondering recently, why is it that now it's 10 o'clock for you when we didn't actually change the time? You know, I was, and still I wasn't thinking that we have changed the hour, and we are back to when we started, because we started, I think, in April, May, something like this, and we had already summertime.
Yes.
So it was 9 o'clock for you and 3 o'clock for me.
Yeah. That's now I'm going to make sure that I put it down on my calendar,
Yeah.
And I will not forget. But what I'm saying is that just take into consideration that I am a reasonable person. I'm a rational person. I don't take drugs, you know. But these girls, they did. So when you have Neptune, Venus conjunct, and they are in turmoil, when they are, it's more than, they don't play havoc at other people. They are playing
themselves. Yeah.
They can do that within their own space of connection to their own subtle mind, because Neptune has also a strong connection to the subtle mind, right? To the subtle creative forces. But it can be someone who is devastated by their own creative process. You know, I could also say that Neptune Venus in bad aspects, opposition square, can lead you towards depression, you know, melancholy, a melancholic aspect of the soul, that it's connected to the higher, who is not present. This world is not for me, and it's not, you know. A Neptune it's square or in opposition or in a quincunx to Venus can mean that someone could develop at some point in their lives a disconnection that could lead them to schizophrenia, schizophrenic episodes, or they can just have schizophrenic episodes, and then these episodes can become a drug addiction, or it can become that they become a bomb, that their value system is so destroyed that they become homeless. They don't have a way of picking themselves up to reintegrate in society. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah. Well, if we come back to the two ladies, Janis Joplin, she had big struggles to find a partner. I think she had sexual partners, but she had this need to find somebody, to let herself fall into somebody, and she never found a relationship that was that deep that she required. While Amy Winehouse, she had, at least at times, more or less stable relationships. More than so I think Janis Joplin was more Neptunian than Amy Winehouse. I would put her more Plutonian. But I will check also if I find their chart to see.
I found her chart here. You know, Neptune connects to the sun. Sun is at 28 degrees of, what is this? Why does it say 12 here? Oh, 12th house.
The 12th
Sure.
house, yeah. Sun in the 12th house, 28.
Yeah.
And Venus, Neptune in at 1 degree. Okay.
You see the 12th house with 3 personal planets.
Yeah.
So that makes her connected to, you know, the way she sings with that curse voice, you know.
Yeah.
She's like taking a lot of drugs. The 12th house can, and then the opposition of Pluto to Mercury and Venus.
Mercury and Venus, yeah.
Pluto is
Tension.
Pluto is in 6 degrees of Leo, and Venus is at 14, but it's it's much more closer to Mercury than Venus.
Yeah.
Okay, but it's still, you know, Venus and Mercury are connected by just 5 degrees apart. They are personal planets. They're fast-moving planets. So you consider a wider orb in a conjunction for personal planets that move fast. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
They're just 6 degrees apart in Aquarius.
Pluto,
the sun is in
30
Capricorn,
degrees.
so, you know, she managed to do something with her craziness.
Yeah.
And she was part of a revolutionary moment in our society. The 60s were very revolutionary, and she was at the top of that, you know, with a Mars in Sagittarius, you know, but Neptune in the 7th house, retrograde Neptune in the 7th house. And the North Node is conjunct her descendant. That shows how much she carries for relationships. But the South Node being on top of her ascendant doesn't help her have a long life, because it disturbs her physical body. You know, and so it is as if she was always meant to have a short life with that South Node conjunct the ascendant. And a bunch of planets in the 12th house show, you know, show the intensity of her being in another realm of the 12th house. Okay.
Yeah.
But then Neptune has a beautiful trine.
She has a grand trine. She has two actually, a grand trine with Uranus and in conjunction with Saturn, yeah.
But very sensitive. Look at this. Neptune in a square to her moon in Cancer. Super sensitive.
Sure.
Like super, almost to the point, you know, Jupiter moon in Cancer is just like that melancholic voice in the 5th house, which is the house of creativity. Okay.
She had and that gave her really this expression. She had a very special intensivity. She was very intense, but in an immediate special way. I'm a great fan of her music. Great.
Me too. I always think that, you know, when I am like, you know, in need of money or something, or more money, I go like, oh Lord, won't you buy me a Mercedes? Where's my Mercedes Benz? You know. And then Pluto in the 6th house, another important aspect. This is not Pluto in the 6th house class, but I'm gonna say that there is usually a very strong health problem with someone who was born with Pluto in the 6th house, or either they were born with that or they developed that through life. And of course, because she has, look at that, the 6th house in her chart is the cusp of the 6th house is Cancer.
Yeah.
The moon in Cancer is in the 5th house, showing that her craft, her methodology of work, 6th house, is 5th house stuff, creativity, music.
Yeah.
Right? She's a performer, and a performer who has reached a large audience, played in states, in stages all over the world. Jupiter is in the 5th house, amplifying her ability to touch people's hearts, Cancer, by her music. Okay, but Neptune is in a square to her moon, which rules her 6th house. So she develops this La La Land type of nostalgic performance, which is enhanced with Pluto in the 6th house, creating some kind of health addictive, compulsive Pluto.
What is the other square that Neptune has? The one in the 10th house?
With Mars.
With Mars.
So that's the compulsive aspect, right?
Yeah.
Also, because Neptune is going like, oh, what is making me do this? But, Sag is going like, go, go, go. And because she has Mars in Sag in the 10th house, it also shows that she became very well known.
Yeah.
And because of the square between Neptune and Mars, she's also known for being taken down by drugs.
Yeah.
Being brought down by drugs, because
Neptune almost aggressive to herself, no?
Yeah, exactly.
Is an aggression to herself
through the use of drugs. Neptune.
Sandra, I have to leave.
Yeah, I know, my darling. So please make a note. We still need to approach Pluto. But I think it was very interesting that we went deep today,
Yes.
So it gives you a lot of material to work with.
I will, it's anyway after the 10th, in the week after the 10th of April, you give me a day when it's good for you. Yeah?
Anytime after the 10th.
I cannot say anytime, but after the 10th.
What about the 14th of April?
14th of April. Yes, perfect.
Okay, just one